Hello dear viewers, it's me, Bareface McNotActive on YouTube for what feels like 5 years. .com. Yep, that's my name. And sadly I'm not dead, which apparently means that I have to keep making videos. Today, I wanted to change up my usual formula for making science related stuff a bit by not covering a specific prehistoric creature or biological concept like I usually do, but rather to talk about something a little different. Because today's video is all about creationists. Yay.
And they have a skull on display that is clearly a dragon. There's no other way to describe it. It's a dragon skull. My kids, when we get down there, and immediately one of them says, "Mom, it's a dragon." And I look at it and I say, "My God, it is a dragon. I've never seen anything like that. It looks just like a dragon. It is. It's a dragon." And my mom says, "It's a dragon. Look at this." Well, the technician goes, "Oh, no. That's not a dragon. No. I'm like, what do you mean it's not a dragon?" She goes, "No, that's a dinosaur."
But the creationist we're going to talk about today ain't your ordinary creationist. No. The lovely individual we're dealing with today is someone truly special. The man in question is called David Reeves. Describes himself on Twitter as being a TV host, speaker and author. He's also the head of David Reeves Ministries, bringing you biblical answers to the cosmos in the 21st century. On top of that, he also owns a YouTube channel under the same name, with almost 3,500 subscribers, where he posts some rather interesting stuff. Who could forget such classic series of his like Big Bang Problems or Why You Should Believe in Creation and Not Evolution? I don't really recommend watching them. I've already watched some and I could be sitting here making videos about them till the merry and long awaited day I die because of the scientific inaccuracies they're riddled with. But that's not what we're here for today, because seeing as how Mr. Reeves is also a singer and songwriter, it wouldn't be too far-fetched to assume that he might have produced a song or two about his, let's say, extremist beliefs. And that's exactly what he did when making Evolution, the Science of Confusion. Oh boy. So what I'm going to do now is that I'm going through this video one by one to list and debunk all the scientific inaccuracies made in this child-friendly creationist song.
Protozoa is my name, I'm just a single cell. I'm sorry that I have no proof, perhaps it's just as well.
Okay, so where do I begin? So, first off, protozoa as a taxon describes a wide variety of different one-cellular eukaryotic organisms still represented by existing species to this day. And some groups of modern-day protozoans are really fascinating. For example, the so-called zooxanthellae are especially characterized by the fact that they live in symbiotic bonds with more complex multicellular organisms like corals, to the point where they're present in all reef-building corals. Also, some relatives of these zooxanthellae are actually bioluminescent, which means they glow real pretty in the dark when you shake them. On the other hand, there are also protozoans like Plasmodium, which is the main cause of malaria. I mean, they can all glow real pretty in the dark, I guess. In general, I do understand what Mr. Reeves was actually going for, seeing as how the most basic forms of protozoans might have been very similar to what the common ancestor to all eukaryotic life, aka all organisms which have a nucleus in every cell, aka animals, plants, fungi and protists, the latter being what protozoans are part of. But that still doesn't mean that protozoans were the first organisms to roam the earth. Far from it, actually.
Of my beginning, back in time when from a glob of goo, supposedly I started things, the end of which is you.
No. just no.
For untold centuries, I thought that all was going well. Then I became dissatisfied as just a single cell. My fortitude, my guts and grit would stand me in good stead. I made this as my final goal, to be a quadruped.
Evolution as a process does not have a final goal, which is something a lot of people don't seem to realize. Evolution isn't really an improvement from A to B, with A being the extremely primitive ancestor and B the ultimate final goal after which evolution stops. It's more of a diversification process due to different selective pressure different populations of the same species are undergoing. And said diversification process will not stop until the last organism in this universe has died.
I had to take it step by step and over centuries. That was nothing, for I knew I'd turn out as I pleased. Ambition surged within my cell down in my gloppy bog. By protozoa and effort I became a pollywog.
Mr. Reeves is making it look like evolution is a process happening to one individual, similar to metamorphosis, which is simply not a case at all. Instead, evolution happens over multiple generations of favouring the survival of organisms with certain traits benefiting them in their ecological conditions. This is basic 7th grade biology. Also, can we talk about the fact how this guy just summed up 2.2 billion years of evolution in one sentence? That's of course assuming that this nightmarish creature of the night over here depicts a traditional amphibian tadpole.
Evolution, the science of confusion. Because of all the missing links, they don't know what to do. Evolution, incredible delusion. They tell us that we started out as just a glob of goo.
Nobody tells you that. Also, Comic Sans. If you want to make a point, don't use Comic Sans. No, seriously, regarding the missing link thing, we can pretty much reconstruct the entirety of vertebrate evolutionary history just based on the fossil findings alone, meaning that scientists do have a pretty great understanding of the course of evolution.
For umpteen million years or so, I wriggled all about, encumbered by my stupid tail, then fins began to sprout. Or was it legs I next acquired? Really, I forget. With evolution in control, you don't know what you'll get.
What Mr. Reeves is initially describing is the development of limbs suited for walking on land, and thus the split up of the common ancestor of all tetrapods from the rest of all vertebrae, but he does so in an extremely vague and manipulative way. Seriously, no organisms who have developed organs like limbs are small enough to only be visible under the microscope. Jesus!
Yet. My patient waiting bore much fruit, as happens without fail. I changed into a reeking ape with teeth and hair and tail. It was such fun to be an ape. I loved to swing from trees. Oh, I loved to munch bananas, and I loved to scratch for fleas. I howled at all my comrades, and I gibbered at the moon. And little did I know that all my carefree days were doomed.
Why is everything in this video so unintentionally terrifying? Okay, so let's talk about apes. The oldest known actual primate is a little fella called Archibald agilis, a small insectivore who lived about 55 million years ago. This guy is generally regarded as the common ancestor of all Haplohini, or dry-nosed monkeys, aka all modern primates except lemurs, which split off from the common ancestor of all primates before Archibald due to the isolation of Madagascar. Anyway, the primate costume shown here does not depict Archibald, unsurprisingly, as its design is probably based off both the common chimpanzee and the spider monkey, which are two very different primates, one of them being closer related to us than the other.
Millions of long years went past, and then a million more. And suddenly I noticed that my tail was feeling sore. Well, it dropped off and my hair fell out. Old Darwin moment strikes again. I was a jolly ape, but now I turned into a man.
I've already explained this once. Again, evolution and changes connected to it do not happen in one individual over the span of a lifetime. Also, again, you basically just summed up 25 million years of evolution. The loss of the tail in modern hominoids, or apes as the normal folks call it, was already present shortly after the split up from the common ancestor of orcatharines, which currently includes the taxons of the Cercopithecidae, or old world monkeys, and of the hominoids. The earliest known ancestor of all hominoids is a small extinct primate genus known as Proconsul, who lived about 25 million years ago, and who actually shares common features with both apes and old world monkeys. Currently, it is classified as an ape, which means that it's the oldest known occurrence of taillessness in the hominoidea. The lack of hair in humans is mostly due to the environment that our ancestors, like early species of Australopithecus, had to live in and adapt to, the African savanna. Now, as you know, it's pretty hot over there, and our ancestors probably had to walk great distances to reach sources of food like trees, as they stood far apart from each other. An animal the size of a 150 centimeter tall primate with thick fur would die of a heat stroke pretty much instantly, so individuals with less fur were favoured by selection. Now, the exposure to this new environment mainly happened because the African rainforest, which once spanned over a great portion of Africa, started to break down and be replaced with other ecosystems like the savanna about 7 to 8 million years ago. Meaning that animals which once lived in the rainforest, like our ancestors, were suddenly living in an entirely new surrounding.
Would you believe I started out as just a glob of goo, and changed from fish to bird to ape and ended up as you?
Hold on a second. You didn't change into any of this. All of these listed organisms came from the same common ancestor, from which its respective evolutionary lineage spread up at different times throughout the history of the Earth. Some of these organisms are closely related to each other because they shared a common ancestor for a longer time in said history. Also, humans are technically still apes, just saying.
That theory is as theories go, rather odd and weird. The truth, however, is a lot less complex than you feared.
Oh no.
If you, my friends, will listen on, you'll find the whole true story,
Please no.
in which there's somewhat less of goo and rather more of glory.
Fuck. Jeez. You know, I don't care what religious beliefs you have, I couldn't care less. But what you should not do in general is overlapping religion and science, because those two are very different things. One is extremely objective, rational and driven by facts, and the other is basically the exact opposite. So don't mix them up or shit like this will happen. Blah blah blah, boring chorus nobody cares about.
You call that science?
Yes.
Science fiction.
Fuck you.
Bad touch, bad! All in the day's work.